Welcome to this tutorial showing you how to create a piece of artwork in response to the artist Tyhe Reading. And you'll see in Photopea that I have already opened up a photograph that I took in Cornwall. And the first thing I'm going to do is make it a bit more pretty. So image adjustments, hue saturation, and bring up the saturation a little bit. Bring up those blues and the greens. Okay, then image adjustments, brightness and contrast. And I'll just move this over so you can see. I'm just bringing up the contrast and bringing the brightness down a tiny bit to make the image a little bit more bold. Okay, next thing I'm going to do is grab the shapes tool and go down to custom shape. And I want the top left triangle here. And I'm going to draw that at a medium size on my project. And it's filled red at the moment, which is fine. And I'm going to use the arrow tool just to spin that round, and I'm holding shift so that I can get it an exact 90-degree turn. Okay, then I'm going to position it in a central place with the tip of the triangle close to the horizon. Okay, and then I'm just going to right click on that layer and rasterize it so it's no longer a live shape. And I'm going to use the magic wand tool to magic wand around the triangle and then press select and inverse. So I now have just the triangle selected, and I'm going to go back to my photo layer, press Ctrl C to copy and Ctrl V to paste. And I now have a triangle of the landscape ready to then rotate itself with the arrow tool. And again, pressing shift so I get an 180 degrees perfectly. And then I move it up so that the horizon meets the horizon the other way around. And that is really the piece done and dusted. So easy that I've got enough time to show you another one. Okay, so here's another picture that I took, and I'm going to go the same again, image adjustments, hue saturation, and bring up the saturation a little bit. And I'm also in this one going to make my sunset a little bit better. So I'm going to create a new layer, and I'm going to get the rectangle select, and I'm going to select the whole of the sky. There we go. And then I'm going to go and make sure I've got a nice deep orange in my color select. Click OK. And then I'm going to go to the gradient tool, and I'm going to make sure I've selected orange to transparent. Okay. And I'm going to drag the handle from the top to the bottom of my mask, and that's going to give me orange to transparent within my selection. And then for the drop down box above the layers, I'm going to choose multiply, and that's going to make that a little bit more see-through and blend it nicely with the clouds behind. I'm also going to just bring the opacity down a little bit so it's not quite so bold. Then I'm going to right click on that layer and merge down so that is all one photo, before going ahead and getting the shape tool again and using the same triangle as before, drawing a triangle at a good size onto my piece. Again, it's red, but that's okay. And using shift to help me turn that 90 degrees and place it again with the tip in the sky very close to the horizon. Okay, and as before, I'm going to rasterize that. I'm going to use the magic wand to select everywhere but the triangle, and then select inverse, and then selecting the photo layer and pressing Ctrl C to copy it and Ctrl V to paste. And I then have that triangle as its own layer of the sunset. And lastly, I use the arrow tool to move it and rotate it. And that is a second piece done and dusted. As I said, very easy to make these effective pieces. So I'm going to show you one last time. So same as before, nice image that I've taken myself, image adjustments, hue saturation, and bring up the saturation so it's nice and colourful. And this time I'm going to go for a circle. So I'm going to grab the ellipse shape, press shift to make sure it's a perfect circle, and then use the arrow tool to move it into a central position. And you want the horizon to be above the top half of the circle. And then as before, right click and rasterize, magic wand the outside, press select and inverse to mask off just the circle, press Ctrl C, Ctrl V, and that makes the circle its own layer of the photograph, and then use the arrow tool to spin it round and bring it up so the horizons meet. And that is another piece of work done and dusted. And so that is 3 pieces done in the style of Tyhe Reading, done and dusted. I hope you find this tutorial helpful.